Of all the characters from this anime, the one who probably left the greatest impression on me as well as many others was the Waffle Brother himself, Julio. I mean, let's face it, villain or not, he had one of the most engaging backstories, a younger sibling who wanted to be on equal grounds with his sister, but could just never quite pull it off. This led to him developing an inferiority complex, and later because of a misunderstanding, he ended up making a deal with the devil. While his redemption arc was nice and everything, I think the show would benefit from him being a major villain for at least a little while longer, maybe even until near the final act, and then you could do the whole redemption arc. And quite frankly, I think he deserved to have his own signature decorative dessert. He was on the verge of having one, but ultimately those waffles were used by his sister to make her own transformation trinket. Well, I think I can fix that, as well as make an appropriate treat for today. So for this special Halloween edition of Kirakira Precure Sweets IRL, we're going to be making Julio's unofficial jack-o'-lantern waffles. For this recipe, we're going to break it down into 3 major components: the pumpkin waffle itself, a stem made from candied pecans, and a berry sauce, which was more than likely what Julio used on his own waffles. With that, let's start off with the candied pecan stem. For it, we're going to use a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a pinch of each salt and pumpkin pie spice, a tablespoon of water, and of course a 1/2 cup of chopped pecans. Now, for candied pecans, you would usually use cinnamon, but considering what we're making alongside it, I don't see any reason why we can't add a little more pumpkin into this side dish. Anyway, we're just going to start by tossing in the water and brown sugar and let it all melt down before we add in the salt and pumpkin pie spice. Stir it up a little more and then the pecans go right in. Cook the liquids down and get the pecans all nice and coated. Once they look all nice and sticky, I dumped it all out onto a parchment-lined plate. Then, using my spatula, I sectioned off a bunch of pecans and shaped it into a pumpkin stem. The rest of it you can either snack on later or, I don't know, give it to some trick-or-treaters.
こうなったらしょうがない。お菓子をもらいに参る。トリックオアトリート。
Next up is a mixed berry sauce. Now, for this you could really use any combination of berries of your liking as long as they're predominantly darker fruits. In my case, I used a combination of blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. They actually all came from a bag of frozen berries I defrosted the night before. These kinds of berries will be a lot easier to turn into a sauce than fresh ones. For our purposes, I've got 4 cups of these guys, along with 3/4 of a cup of sugar and a tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm just gonna throw all of these guys into my pot, and considering my portable burner is a little on the small side, I'm taking this over to my actual stovetop. Just gonna let it simmer while we move on to the waffles. For the waffles, I'm actually mostly basing this off a Bay Crocker recipe. Biggest difference is that I'm not gonna use Bisquick. I mean, if you like that stuff, that's fine, but for me, I'm going to use ingredients that are a little less processed. In other words, flour and baking powder, but first let's go through the wet ingredients. We've got 2 eggs. Oh wait. Two eggs separated, a 1/4 cup of veggie oil, a 1.5 cups of milk, and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. On the dry side, we've got the aforementioned flour and baking powder, 2 cups and 4 teaspoons respectively, and 1 more teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Oh wait, pumpkin? Duh, how could you forget that, stupid? Ahem, we're also gonna need about a 1/2 cup of canned pumpkin. Just gonna start off by mixing all of the wet ingredients, minus the egg whites. We'll get to those in just a little bit. I switched to a spatula after I added in the pumpkin since it's a little bit on the thicker side. Then in another bowl, I sifted together all of the dry ingredients. And after that, I combined them with the wet ingredients, though it was still a little bit on the chunky side. Now, this is where the egg whites come in. Using my stick mixer, I'm just gonna whip these into stiff peaks and then fold them into the batter. The whipped egg whites will really help lighten up the chunkiness of the pumpkin in the batter. This is actually a good trick to use in any waffle recipe if you have the time. Now, just gonna use some non-stick spray on the waffle iron and let it heat up. Once it's all nice and hot, on goes the batter. I like to use this disher to help evenly spread out the batter. Down goes the lid, and let it go for however long it takes for your waffle to get all nice and crispy. It'll vary depending on your batter and your iron. Meanwhile, it looks like the berry sauce is coming along nicely. Still, last time I checked, a sauce should be a little bit more on the liquidy side, shouldn't it? No problem. There we go, and into the squirt bottle it goes. Now, our waffle is done, so it's time to assemble. So I'm just gonna take the sauce and fill in some of the grooves to make a bit of a jack-o'-lantern pattern. At one point, I think a bunch of pulp jammed it up a little. No problem, just need to squeeze it a little harder and... Okay, this was a bad idea. Just gonna switch to the spoon. Last up, I'm just gonna lay the candy pecan at the top of the plate, and why not, a single pecan for the nose. And while I probably could have done a better job filling in the appropriate waffle grooves, I'd say this turned out pretty good. Taste especially, I can assure you, is damn good. The waffle was crispy yet soft, had a nice aroma of pumpkin throughout it, and this sauce was awesome. Seriously, if you want to try anything from this recipe, at least give the berry sauce a shot. It's good stuff. Here's to you, Julio. Hope to see you again very soon. And that's pretty much it for this sort of improvised little Halloween video. And you know what? Designing my own recipe was pretty fun. At least a lot more fun than the hell I went through with the pumpkin pudding. If you ever need a creative outlet, I honestly think making tasty dishes is never a bad idea. Just be careful not to make too much of a mess. Next time on these cooking videos, I will be returning to the actual numbered episodes, as I still have 2 more official Precure recipes to tackle. But for now, I've got some reading to catch up on. So until then though, farewell for now my friends, and... Oh, sounds like the trick-or-treaters are here. But I hope they're not allergic to pecans.
Trick or treat! Trick or treat!